morning, everybody. Crafting Journey here. I'm barely awake. That Journey chick on Instagram, my nose itches. Somebody's talking about me, right? That means something. I don't know. Look, I charged my watch. It's telling me that I have no events scheduled for today, except I'm going into the office. Do I look like office ready? Yep. I'm going into the office. Okay, let's get things set up here. All right, guys, I have a riddle for you as soon as I find it. Um, okay, what word is easy to spell but hard to say? This is a good one. Yeah. Leave in your comment down below what you think. What word is easy to spell and hard to say? Okay. I got my notes ready for my segments. Busy night last night. So we had the Craft With Me Wednesday with Marissa, the crafty heifer. Some, but not all of you, let me get a peek at your temperature blankets. And thank you for that. If you didn't, don't be embarrassed. Just I'd still love to see where you're at with your temperature blankets. Crystal, I want to see what you're doing with your cross stitch. You know, you're doing a beautiful tree cross stitch, and I would love to see where you're at with that. Anywho, let us, am I done with this color? This was the black from yesterday. Let's pick another color. Okay. Where is it? Okay, we're going to do this one. And then, like, just over an hour into it, squirrels. Oh, no. What do they call it? Not squirrels. Hamsters. Squirrels. Whatever. Hamster wheel. Yeah. And so Marissa and I, we could talk to each other. We were still connected, and we thought, we waited for a little while, and it just never came back. So we waited, several minutes, and Marissa had worked the entire day, had just gotten home from work to jump into the live, hadn't eaten dinner. So, we were both okay with just wrapping it up at this point. So I went into the chat because people were still chatting. It was just weird. There was just hamster wheels, and my internet was fine. I don't know what was causing it. So I apologize if you're watching the replay and you get hamster wheels. At the point you get hamster wheels, it's over. I apologize. But yeah, it happens on YouTube sometimes. I don't know. I don't know if there's too much YouTube traffic or StreamYard. They'll tell me, oh, maybe you had too many windows open or something. I don't know. I don't have that many windows open. Oh, I just put that in the wrong spot. That's okay. We have the technology. And then at 8 o'clock, I went live and did my giveaways. So congratulations to the winner of the April yarn giveaway was Pamela Leisure. I'm still waiting to hear from her. If you're watching this video, you won the yarn giveaway. Please go to Facebook Messenger, Rebecca Schilling, and let me know, contact me. Or that Journey Chick on Instagram. And Anita, 3 kids, won the $50 Treasure Studios Art gift card. Congratulations. So get in touch with me. Yeah, okay. So excited for them. What national day is this today? It is National, and I never thought I would say this, Zipper Day. This is the day that commemorates um, the day a patent was issued to the modern zipper. This was in 1913. Now, there were a bunch of predecessors. This guy, his name was Gideon Sundback. He worked for the Universal Fastener Company. Um, the Universal Fastener Company, a few years before that, came out with this, what they called the clasp locker, which was this hook and eye system, which everybody hated it. Still do. I hate the hook and eye. But he worked there. He was very devoted to the company, and in 1913 he came out with what he called the separable fastener, um, later to be known as the zipper. and So he got a patent for that. And at one time, the B.F. Goodrich company actually had a copyright on the word zipper. Not anymore, but I used to sell a lot, and I just hated zippers. I really did. And so you should wear something today with a zipper in it. I did not, because I got dressed before I did my research. Um, I do have clothing with zippers, but in fact, I love clothes with zippers. I should make a hat with a zipper. No, you can't crochet it. No, bad idea. Forget it. Never. No, no, we're not doing that. We're not going there. Okay, moving on. So, terrible idea, Rebecca. Terrible idea. Well, I forgot to put my light pad back on the table, and I'm not going to do it right now because I am off to work. Well, I should be thankful. Starting next week is the 3-day-a-week schedule, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But that's okay. You guys are still going to get your morning show. Yes, you are. All right, let's do judge, jury, and journey. Yes, let's do the closing arguments for this Ashley McArthur trial for the murder of Taylor Wright. Now, I've got to say, I was so confused by the prosecutor's strategy in this case. But she was doing, it was just getting everything into evidence. So a lot of things were put into evidence that the jury did not actually hear. And the judge would say, or see, the judge would say, okay, all the evidence is going to go back with you. When you deliberate, you'll have a chance to look at it and review it then. So strange. But that, I guess this prosecutor just wanted to move the trial along. Some of it was published to the jury, like the interviews and things like that. But, one thing that did not get published to the jury, or at least for some reason I missed it. I don't know how I missed it, but, well, anyway, we'll talk about it when I get to that. But anyway, so closing arguments. Closing arguments. So the prosecution talked about, she set up this timeline beautifully of, everything that occurred up to and including that day, all the evidence showed, including, and what she did was she would put witnesses on the stand that you might suspect would have been involved in her murder, Taylor's murder. Like, she put, the first witness was the ex-husband. The second one was Cass, the girlfriend. All these people were ruled out. So she put in the husband to show where that money came from. It was from a car accident that she had been into. before she got married to her husband, she received a $250,000 settlement, but she commingled that with her husband's money for the next 10 years. However, when they decided to get a divorce, Taylor thought, hey, this is my money. So she took $100,000 out of their joint account without his permission, which the family court was not happy about and was asking her to return. So she had a court date the following week. September 8th was a Friday. She had a court date that following week, and she kept texting and calling Ashley and saying, I need to get my money back. I need to get the money out of the safety deposit box. This is something I didn't catch on to during the trial, and the prosecutor brought this to light. There was no safety deposit box. Taylor thought that she was putting her cashier's checks and cash into a safety deposit box. But what was actually happening is that Ashley was depositing all the checks and cash into their joint account. And then the next thing that the prosecutor showed that also didn't get published to the jury was other bank accounts, including the fact that Ashley had transferred money into her personal account from their joint account. She transferred money to her business. She transferred money to her business credit card. She paid bills, like electric bills for the Sticks Billiards Company, out of this joint account. So by the time she gets done, there's no money left in this account. So she couldn't pay Taylor back, and she would have had to have admitted to Taylor that there was no safety deposit box. Taylor was thinking, hey, I'm just going to open that safety deposit box, get my cashier's checks out. One was for $34,000, but that money was gone. So I thought that was really interesting. And then one of the things the prosecutor brought out was during the interview, one of the interviews, Ashley kept talking about Taylor in the past tense. Now, I had to think about that one. And I was trying to put myself in her place. Like if my sister went missing and they were talking to me about her, and they asked me, hey, what's your sister like? And I started describing what my sister is like, and I was not using the past tense. So very interesting that she's using the past tense to describe Taylor. I didn't catch that at first. That was an interesting detail. Then she showed all of these texts back and forth to Taylor, between Taylor and Ashley, her asking, listen, I really need to get to the bank so I can get this money out. I've got court next week. I'm going to go to jail if I don't, return this money. And then she'd text her back, hey, the bank is going to close. And so Ashley had said, I'm going to come tomorrow morning, which is Friday, pick you up, and we're going to go to the bank. So Taylor thought she was going to the bank that day on Friday. So some of the other things brought out was that were significant that, I really hadn't thought about before was if you follow the phone records, the cell tower records, they are, after Taylor disappears, both Taylor's phone and Ashley's phone are pinging off the same towers for days, including the next day when Ashley goes to this wedding in Alabama. with her husband. And the police ask her about this during the interview. They say, Ashley, how do you explain that, your friend is missing? The last time you saw her was the day before, but you go to this wedding and Taylor's phone is at the wedding too. So Ashley's response was, well, she must have left it in my car. Well, first of all, she didn't take the car that day. She took the truck, so it would have been impossible for Ashley's phone to be in the car that they took to that wedding. I thought that was very astute for the prosecutor to point that out. Then the prosecutor showed this. She talked about the ballistics, the fact that there was the bullet was identified as this 38 caliber class, and that Ashley just happened to have this Smith and Wesson gun that was registered to her father, that she had, just prior to her arrest, given to her boyfriend, the owner of Styx, and said, I don't care what you do with this. She was always giving him guns. After Taylor disappeared and Cass had all of Taylor's stuff, all of Taylor's stuff was in this box truck. So Cass had that box truck returned to Ashley's business because that box truck belonged to Ashley. So apparently Ashley had gone through the box truck, picked out all the guns, and given them to her boyfriend and said, because he would sell and trade guns on some website or something. And then sort of the clincher was, and this is the part that I must have missed, they had store footage, surveillance footage on the 9th of Ashley going into Home Depot and buying huge bags of potting soil and cement. What? And then, finally the prosecutor pointed out that Ashley was a crime scene investigator. She is the person with the knowledge of how to get rid of the evidence. And the phone records show that she kept returning to that farm for 2 or 3 days. She was there for hours. So that, what was she doing? Then, very interesting, and this did not come out during the trial, was not published to the jury. It got into evidence, but it was not published. They had somehow taken her Apple or whatever watch device that she had that counted her steps and were able to download that information. I never dreamed that if I ever got in trouble, someone would count my steps. But they did. They counted her steps. And then she pointed out that, on the morning of the disappearance, she had like 600 steps before noon. And at noon, we know that she and Taylor stopped at this Tom Thumb. Ashley went in and bought a drink and a beer. And after that, they end up at this farm, a 28-acre farm. And after that, for the next 2 hours, she's got like 2,000 steps. So the prosecutor was like, what was she doing? She was getting rid of the body. And then, so I'm like, oh, okay. So here's what's scary. Okay, they know where my phone goes at all times. That now they're going to look at my step. You cannot get away with anything anymore. Not that I'm planning anything, but oh my God, talk about Big Brother's watching. Everything we do can be monitored somehow. The watch we wear, the phone we carry, it's pretty scary, isn't it? Okay, so closing arguments for the defense. Now, Colonel Sanders, I say that lovingly. He's such a cute old guy. what I didn't realize, I realized, partway through the trial, these two men trying the case, it was Colonel Sanders and his son. So they're Barosset, I think was their last name, Barry and John Barosset. They were father and son, and the son, if you looked at them side by side, they looked identical, except Colonel Sanders had gray hair. He looked like Colonel Sanders. The young guy looked young. Um, I thought that was really interesting. This father and son duo defending this woman. And apparently, he's a very well known lawyer. He's been practicing since the 70s. He's got this ancient antique office located on a main part of town. Um, in any case, he does, Colonel Sanders does the closing arguments, and he did a really good job, I thought. And he pointed out, and when he did this, I was like, oh, that there were texts from Taylor's phone to her son and to Cass after she disappears. After the prosecution surmises that she died probably around noon on the 8th, we know that there are texts to Cass that evening, and on the 9th, there are texts to back and forth to Taylor's son. So he said, well, how in the world could that be my client? The only people who knew how to open that phone that had access, thumbprint, were Cass and Taylor. So I'm thinking, Cass? Oh, now we're pointing fingers back at Cass. Well, I mean, it gives you pause, doesn't it? Like maybe some reasonable doubt. Um, but then, on rebuttal, the prosecutor pointed out that it's very easy to pick up somebody's phone code. You know, most of the time, my thumbprint doesn't work on my Apple phone. It just doesn't. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm strange. It just doesn't work. So I ended up putting in a code. Well, all you have to do is look over somebody's shoulder. Maybe they were driving. She looked over. She saw the code. She knew how to get into Ashley's phone or Taylor's phone. So I'm like, okay, I get it. Um, and then he talked about this chiropractor, and he says the reason I put the chiropractor on is just to show you that she had been injured, that it would have been, there was all kinds of evidence to show that she always had help with lifting. And he says, I never said that she couldn't fish or hunt or whitewater raft. I'm just saying that she couldn't lift heavy objects. So on rebuttal, the prosecutor said, well, maybe she couldn't lift heavy objects, but this is a 28-acre farm. There were wheelbarrows out there. There was an ATV. There were other vehicles. She could have moved that body any number of ways to where it was, just off the property. She didn't have to necessarily drag her or lift her, like heist her over her shoulder. There were all these, ways she could have done it. She could have, I'm not going to be gross, but and the other thing the prosecutor pointed out was, when they found the body, they never found her flip-flops. Taylor was wearing flip-flops that day, and she said if she had been drugged in any fashion, those flip-flops would have come off. There you go. That's why you didn't find any flip-flops on the body. They probably came off when she was being drugged around on the property. I don't know. Uh, so that. And the last thing is, the defense attorney said, that gun should not be in evidence. The one that the prosecutors, the Smith and Wesson, that the prosecutors said that goes back to her father, because he says I put in 6 pages of possibilities of what that gun could have been, and to say that it was this particular gun is fodder. We don't know that. There's no proof that this was the gun. It was impossible to prove that. The ballistics expert said the bullet was not matchable. You couldn't link that bullet to any gun, except to say that it was a 38 class, and there was 6 pages of manufacturers of guns that would have accepted that class of bullet. So, a good point on his part, and a good appellate argument, because that the judge allowed that to come into evidence. So that's good grounds for an appeal there, if they have to appeal. So here's what I want you guys to do. Let me know what you think in the comments. Guilty, not guilty, and then tomorrow I will let you know what the verdict is. But let me know in your comments what you think, and then I'll actually read your comments tomorrow during this segment, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, because I have some thoughts as well. But the other thing I wanted to cover during this segment is yesterday in the George Floyd murder trial, one of the jurors came forward and allowed himself to be interviewed, which is perfectly okay. Once the trial is over, a juror can talk to anybody they want. So this was a young black gentleman, and he gave us some insight as to, what was going on with the jury. And he said when they got back into the jury room for deliberations, it was pretty unanimous right away. He said that the initial vote on second degree murder, which was the highest one, was guilty, across the board guilty. The other two charges, he said there was some confusion in the jury instructions. So one juror was a holdout because they weren't really understanding some of the language of the jury instructions. So he said it took about 30 minutes for them to work through that, and once they did, it was unanimous, guilty on everything. One of the things he said, it was extremely difficult for him. He says there were some days I just didn't want to go in there. He says I just had to watch this man dying day after day after day. It was on replay. He says it was very, very difficult. Every day I did go in there, I had to watch this man die. And one of the things that he was asked during the interview was, what did he think of this defense that the crowd was distracting Derek Chauvin? And he said that was laughable. He said it really was. It was just laughable. And I thought that was funny, because that was my opinion all along. That really, that's a crowd, yeah. And then he said he felt like the strongest witnesses were Dr. Tobin. He felt that Dr. Tobin was the pulmonary doctor, as I recall. He says he explained everything so well as far as the breathing and when he stopped breathing, and he said he explained it all really, really well. We were really able to understand it. The other witness that he was very impressed with was Donald Williams. Now, Donald Williams is the young black guy who I think he went on first. He was a very early witness. He was one of the crowd. And he's the guy in the crowd you can hear calling Derek Chauvin a bum. You're a bum. You're a bum, But he was also a martial arts, mixed martial arts person. And so they felt, and one of the things he said on the stand was, I felt like I had just witnessed a murder. So they all were really moved by this Donald Williams testimony. So I thought that was really interesting follow-up to that trial. So, okay, tomorrow we will get a verdict on the Ashley McArthur trial. What do you guys think? Guilty, not guilty? I hope I've given you enough information to make your decision. I'm going to close my book and let you guys begin your deliberations. Talk about it with your family. What do you think? What do you think? I don't want to go to work. I like working from home. I really do. But we've had this discussion. Don't look over my shoulder at my code. Oh, my code would be so easy to figure out. I have no secrets. Okay, this day in history. Do, 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 do. Well, a couple of things that I thought were significant. April 29th, 1992, if I remember this, the 4 white police officers that were accused of beating Rodney King are acquitted. And LA just blew up with riots. Like, people just lost their minds over this. Worst U.S. riots in 75 years. 51 people died. They were killed. 51 people. 2,383 were injured. And more than 9,000 were arrested. What? That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. So you didn't want to be in LA after that trial. Same thing with the George Floyd trial. I would not have wanted to have been outside that courthouse. Thank God it was an acquittal. Not an acquittal. It was a guilty verdict, because if it had been an acquittal, they would have lost their minds. I don't know. I don't know. How do you justify killing people because because the 4 officers that killed one person got away? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah. Oh, so the other thing I thought was super interesting was Eva Braun and Adolf Hitler get married this day in history, 1945. They get married, and the next day they kill themselves. They commit suicide. Yep, allegedly. They were in that bunker, and yeah. And then there was one more thing. Another one that was like really good one. Here we go. Britain's Prince William marries Kate Middleton. Huge wedding in 2011. Now, don't lie. You watched the wedding. I watched the wedding. Oh my God. Do you remember her sister with that gorgeous dress? The maid of honor? Oh, beautiful dress. I think they paid more attention to her sister's dress than her dress. She was 29. Prince William was 28. They said I do in a lavish wedding presided by the Archduke of Canterbury, and it was a Friday morning marriage ceremony. She wore a gown designed by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen. So everybody wanted, like, oh, we want that dress. We want that dress. I didn't think it was that great of a dress, but, it's just okay. I've seen nicer dresses, but... And... Yeah. Her sister Pippa was the maid of honor. Harry was the best man. And they became the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. And as we know, they lived happily ever after, and they have 3 children. That is George, Charlotte, and Louis. All very prestigious names, very royal names. But Kate is so well put together. Like, I think, anytime she's in public, she's just dressed beautifully. And, well, I guess if you're royalty, that goes with the territory. But she's a very pretty woman. She really is. But the thing that they really have maintained their privacy. You don't see a lot of pictures of the kids. You see some, but not a lot. I mean, so they've really managed to have their little family and keep their private life private, which I like that. Okay, that's the show for today. All right, guys, leave me a comment. Guilty, not guilty. Ashley McArthur, what do you think? Why do you think she's guilty? What convinced you that she's guilty? What convinced you that she's not guilty? Is there reasonable doubt? I think so, but I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow in the morning show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.